Karen Kelly, would you please come up here? Karen Kelly. Good morning, everybody. Annie, good to see you here. How you doing? Okay. Anyway, I'm glad to be here with you this morning. And I'm inviting Karen up because she was recently elected the president of our board of directors. This is her 6th year. And she's going to do a marvelous job over this next year in helping us get through some of the challenges we have with the new construction going on behind us, but also setting a vision where we can move forward and create a greater impact in the world when it comes to peace and harmony. So you can sit down over here. You're going to do the meditation later.
Fabulous.
All right. See, you get them to a point where they can't say no. Anyway, it is good to be here. I am always kind of amazed, if not dumbfounded, that as I stand up here on Sunday morning, that each and every one of us is sharing exactly the same moment, right here, right now, this moment. That's all we have. The same holds true for all the people that are streaming from all over the world. We get addresses of people who've watched our service sharing the same moment. Even if they're on a different timeline, they're still sharing the same moment. And we can even expand that to the entire population of the world, whether somebody is sleeping 10,000 miles away, or somebody's in prison, on the battlefield, a newborn baby, all sharing exactly the same moment. Right here, right now, that's all we have. Before this moment, we have the past, which is everything that we've done up to this point in time, but there's no way we can go back and relive anything. But this is the point. Everything beyond this moment from here forward is pure potential. Nothing has happened yet. Anything can happen. Pure potential. If you're going through your life and you don't feel like you're as happy as you should be, that's because you're looking at the past to determine how you feel about the present. But if you look at the future and you look at the potential that you have individually to move forward and create the life that you desire, we must believe that we have that potential and we can utilize it. Now, the biggest enemy, that which thwarts us from utilizing our potential more than anything else, is assumptions. Because we assume things that aren't true, and those things that we assume sometimes hold us back from life. Sometimes we assume that we cannot do what we want to do, or that we cannot be the kind of person that somebody wants us to be. We assume things, and that prevents us from utilizing our potential. And this all leads up to the story as to why Cousin Ozzy called his lifelong friend, Ivor Overski, a no-good, lousy liar and a cheat. It was opening week of hunting in Nunda, South Dakota, Ozzy's hometown. And he was down at Lars's Tavern with all of his cronies, and they're hobnobbing about the hunting season that was coming up, where the best place to hunt, and all the other things that hunters do when they get together. Well, Ivor Overski stood up and he said, "I'm afraid my hunting days are over. I just don't care to do it anymore, and I don't think I can do it anymore. But," he says, "I have a hunting dog that is the smartest hunting dog in the entire world, and I'm willing to sell that dog." He says, "If you go out to the duck zoo," the hell was that? Wow. Are they doing construction today? Anyway, Ivor Overski said, "If you go out to the duck slough and you hide in the reeds and you send this dog up to the water, the dog will come back and tell you how many ducks are there. If the duck scratches the ground with its paw once, that means there's one duck there. If it scratches twice, 2 ducks. Scratches 3 times, 3 ducks, and so on." Well, Ozzy was so excited about the prospects of this dog, he bought it on the spot for $100. The next day, he goes out to the slough hunting with his dog. He does just what Ivor said. He hides in the reeds. The dog goes up to the water, comes back in no time at all, and the dog is jumping up and down, wagging its tail, shaking its head, got a stick in its mouth, and it's acting like it wants to play fetch. Ozzy couldn't understand this. And then he assumed that Ivor Overski had pulled one over on him, that he had deemed him a sucker and taken his money. And he also assumed that Ivor Oversky was probably back at the tavern right now telling everybody and laughing with everybody about how he did one over in Cousin Ozzie. So he gets in his car, he drives to Lars's Tavern as fast as he can. He goes in and there's Ivor Oversky, and he walks up to him and he starts ranting and raving about how the dog can't do anything except play fetch, and he wants his money back immediately. And he calls him a dirty, rotten liar and a cheat. Well, with that, Ivor Oversky stands up and he says, Ozzie, Ozzie, Ozzie. That dog didn't want to play fetch. That dog was trying to tell you there's more ducks out there than he can shake a stick at. Oh, boy. That's one of my favorites. Anyway, as I said before, we were talking about potential. And we're talking about that which prevents us from utilizing our potential, which are assumptions. Now, potential is everything. That is the greatest gift we have from God. That is how everything started. 14 billion years ago at the Big Bang, there was absolutely nothing, but there was potential at that time for everything you see today. After the Big Bang, there was nothing but hydrogen atoms. And hydrogen atoms, if you do nothing with them, well, let me give you an illustration. John, will you come up here? If you take hydrogen, like it was at the Big Bang, and you do absolutely nothing with it for 14 billion years, that hydrogen has the potential to grow into a handsome man who sings beautiful music in a temple. Isn't that amazing? That is the potential that was there at the beginning. That's all.
Can I go there?
Anyway, I mean, that is a true story. If you take hydrogen, leave it alone, you get all of this. Now, the hydrogen atoms continue to evolve and utilize their potential, and went on and on and on until we get to human beings. And all of a sudden, we human beings come forward, and we have more potential than any living thing that had ever existed before, as far as we know. And as human beings, we had the potential to evolve to a higher state of mind, develop a higher intellect, and to develop greater spiritual powers than anything ever had before. And it came to the point, or it's gotten to the point where we as human beings have evolved beyond nature, where nature no longer controls us 100%, but we have certain controls over nature. We can alter it. So we have become caretakers of the earth. Whether we want to be or not, that is our designated assignment. We're caretakers of this earth. So let's just for a moment step back and see what kind of a job we're doing. Let's go forward 100 years into the future. Take a look at how things are. As we do this from afar, we see the earth, and there are no fields of grain, there are no flowers, there are no trees. The earth is scorched. The only wildlife there is that which burrows underground so it escapes the tremendous heat. Human beings have invented ways to exist in this environment, but it's not a comfortable life. 100 years from now. Now then, as caretakers of this earth, let's see what kind of a job we're doing. Let's go forward 100 years and see how the earth is. From afar, we look down at the earth, and it is covered with beautiful waves of grain. There are trees everywhere. There are flowers everywhere. The rivers and the lakes are bursting forth with fresh, clean water. It's an absolute paradise. 100 years from now. Now, both of these illustrations are real in the potential realm. Either one can come to exist. And it is up to us, as human beings, as caretakers of the earth, it is up to us to determine where we're going. If we look at the trends of what's happened over the last 50 years, we can see that the first scenario is more likely to happen than the second unless we do something different. Unless we pop out of this assumption that, oh, it'll be okay, oh, the earth can survive, oh, the forests aren't that big of a deal, all these assumptions that prevent us from moving forward and claiming the potential that is ours to make this a paradise. So moving from a global perspective, let's do a personal perspective. How about you? How's your life going to be, say, 1 year from now? Or 5 years from now? We can go through the same process that I just did. We can look at different possible potentials that you're possibly an embittered, angry person that has no happiness, that has no love, that is very sad because of things that have happened in the past. There's no joy, there's no excitement in life. You're just waiting for it to get over. That is real in the realm of potential. Or you can be a happy-go-lucky person, enjoying life to every degree, helping people when you can, doing what you can to make the world a better place, and really thrive on being alive. That's a potential. Harvard University did a study on assumptions, and they determined 70% of all the assumptions we make in general, 70% are wrong. They also discovered that 90% of all the assumptions that we make about other people, 90% are wrong. In the book Four Agreements, it says never make assumptions, and there's something to that. Now, I have to differentiate between assumptions and expectations, because an expectation is something that we believe is going to happen based on some sort of factual evidence. An assumption is something in which there is no factual evidence. There is nothing to indicate that it could happen or that it is real or that it has happened. It just is an assumption. So as soon as we move beyond the assumptions that we carry that hold us back from expressing our potential, that hold us back from really developing strong relationships because we assume the other person doesn't care quite so much about us or whatever it might be, as soon as we move beyond the assumptions, life opens up its doors and there's a much greater future available to us. Some people that get a divorce, I've talked to many, they assume they're just not made for a married relationship. They're sad, they're angry, and they don't think they'll ever find joy again. Same thing happens when people lose a loved one that they've had close to them for many, many years. They assume that life is over. If something devastating happens that changes a lot of things, you lose a job, whatever it might be. I know it's a real problem with children. You know, a child will get into trouble of some sort, and we assume, oh no, I have a troublemaker on my hands. But what I'm trying to say is the assumption when it comes to everyday things and the assumptions that come from, that we make with other people are separating us. They're dividing us. They're putting us into a place of loneliness because assumptions are ours and ours alone. And once again, 90% of the assumptions we make about other people aren't true. And I know I do that all the time. If I'm driving down the road, and I'll tell you, I have a history with driving. I'm not necessarily, well, I think I'm a good driver, but a lot of people out there beg to differ with me. And when, Kristen Garvey just raised her hand. Don't you have work to do? Anyway, when I'm driving down the road, coming up to a stop sign or coming to an intersection or something, and I hear a horn beep, I assume that they're beeping at me. And I turn around and I'm almost saying, what's wrong? What I do? And they're not beeping at me at all. They're beeping at a friend in the street that they're waving to. But it's those kind of assumptions that have no factual evidence that they are true, that we live with and that we carry around, and they embitter us. If you meet somebody for the first time, you are going to draw your assumption based on people that you've met in the past that are like that. And that's the first mistake when we start designing today or planning for tomorrow based on what has happened in the past. What has happened in the past has happened. And we need to bless it, We need to give gratitude for the good things. We need to forgive the bad things and move forward. But when it comes to the future, even though we don't have a great deal of control over what might happen, we do have a tremendous amount of control on how we are going to be in the life that we're going to live. I am going to tell you something that I'm ashamed of. And it happened about 15 years ago. I came into work on a Monday morning. There was somebody sitting in the lobby. And it looked like a poor soul that might be down on his luck. But we get a lot of people like that in here on a weekly basis. And we have clothes for them, and we have food for them, and we have directions for them where they can go to get help, whether it be the City Union Mission or a hospital or whatever. It's called Helping Hands, and we do what we can to support them, but we don't have any money. And that's just the policy. We'll help them, but no money. So I come in and I see this person sitting there. I know, because of my past, the person's going to have a sad luck story. You know, perhaps his mother just died in Oklahoma and he needs a bus ticket, starting a new job tomorrow, needs $70 for a pair of steel-toed boots, whatever it might be, but they go through this whole thing and then ask me for money. And at that particular time on a Monday morning, I just wasn't in the mood at that time to pay attention to this person. Huge mistake. So I go on back to my office, and pretty soon the person comes back, and he's standing at my door. And he says, "Do you have time to pray with me?" And that's how it always starts. They always want to pray. I says, "Yeah, come on in. We'll pray." So he came in, and we sat down, and he said, "I've done something very bad. I broke the law. The police are looking for me. I've been on the run for 3 or 4 days, hiding out, living outside." And he said, "I want to turn myself in, but I'm afraid. Will you help me?" So we talked a little bit. And I said, "Do you want me to call the police?" And he said, "Yes." So I called the police, explained the situation. They came down. Meanwhile, me and this fellow were sitting there holding hands, praying. The police officer walked into my office. He saw the guy, explained the situation to the police officer. The police officer looked at him, looked at me. There's no reason to go the full course here. He doesn't need handcuffs. He's a peaceful guy. He wants to do good. So he was very compassionate. He took Phil's hand and says, "Come on with me." He says, "We'll get this squared away." As the fellow went to walk out, he came over to me, and he embraced me, and I embraced him. And to this day, I can feel his whiskers on my cheek, and I can see his eyes welled up with tears, and I can feel my eyes welling up with tears. And we said goodbye, keep in touch. Never saw him again, never heard from him again, but I trust that he's okay. Just because of the fortitude and the courage that he had to come forward and live up to a very bleak future. Now I tell you this because we go through lives and we see people that we think or that we assume are a certain way. Every jealousy that we've ever had in our lives comes out of an assumption that that person is better than us, or that person is smarter than us, or that person is more beautiful than us. Every assumption that we have comes forth from a place of fear, and we're afraid somebody might try to get what we have, or somebody might hurt us. Every assumption we have about a challenge or a problem that we're facing is always based on the negative. Assumptions are always based on the negative. If it's not based on the negative, it's an expectation that there's factual evidence to back it up. But an assumption that's based on the negative does us no good at all. That's just a heavy weight that we carry around. So the message I'm trying to convey today is if we can just truly understand the effect that assumptions have on us, that they are the imprisonment, they are the iron gate that holds us back from moving forward and expressing potential anew in the future, we're going to find a life that we never lived before. We're going to find life that's happier. We're going to find life that's more relaxed. We're going to fall in love with ourselves all over again, something that we probably haven't, many of us haven't, experienced since we were a toddler. And we're just going to be okay with life, to move forward, do the best we can to make the world a better place, and do the best we can to have a fulfilling and comfortable life. It's the assumptions that we lay down today and we walk away from. As we move into meditation, I invite you to think about some of the assumptions that you might make in your life from time to time. I invite you to think about our environment and the assumptions that we, as a consensus in the global field, are making about the environment and the health of the earth and the wellness of all living creatures. And let's really set a vision to move forward and create the life that potential has in store for us. We'll now move into meditation.